Hey Jack, how's it going, man?
Good, mate, you?
Very good, very good. Enjoying a lovely sunny afternoon.
Mate, it's beautiful, isn't it? I thought it was going to rain. I was like, oh, I'm going to have all this stuff plugged in outside. Yeah.
No, good, man. No, it's all good. Yeah, had a lovely afternoon so far, and I've gone full Gareth Bale for the Wales game, so I'm feeling good.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, mate, before we kick in, just tell everybody who you are, why you're here, basically, and yeah, a little bit about yourself, just so people know who you are.
Yeah, great. Hello, everybody. Everybody watching at home. My name's Matt. I'm very flatteringly called a coffee guru by the lovely guys at Delonghi. But I suppose what that means is I've spent the last 10 years working within the coffee industry in the UK, specifically London, and I've worked for great coffee roasteries, and I've been involved in their buying programs and looking after customers, and kind of everything to do with how coffee gets into the UK, roasting, grinding, brewing, being a barista, all those kind of things. Entered and won some barista competitions. Some of you might know what an AeroPress is, or you might not. But back in 2016, I was the best AeroPress maker in England, I
didn't even know that existed. I watched a YouTube about the AeroPress and how basically people are just obsessed with making like an amazing brew. And basically like a whole competition on how to make an amazing cup of coffee from the AeroPress.
So they do a national competition in all around the world every year. And the winners of the nationals go to compete against the rest of the world. So it's like the World Cup of AeroPress, which is.
What was your winning brew from the AeroPress?
So I was a bit of a pioneer, if I do say so myself. So I chose to brew a very strong AeroPress, so a very strong drink, and then I diluted it with water on top of that. And that was my little technique back in the day. But it's since then kind of like, I know and have friends with lots and lots of great people within the industry, and have helped and been involved in people winning competitions and going to compete against the rest of the world to be the best barista in the world and stuff like that. And so it's an amazing community, and I'm very, very, very lucky and proud to be a part of it.
I'll tell you what, it's one of these things, coffee, that is, I was saying to Hillary before we started, is similar to barbecue in a way that you can go down the rabbit hole with it. Do you know what I mean? It is so...
Yeah. And that's, I suppose... Here he is. Yeah, I suppose that's the choice you make, especially with a machine like the La Specialista. It kind of... Hey, Hillary.
Hey, mate, how you going? Sorry, I'm a bit late. I had a lot of wings to tend to.
That's all right. No worries.
While you're here, Hills.
How are they getting on?
Oh, mate, these are looking good.
Yeah.
I love, because they've obviously got coffee in the rub. They've it's caramelized a little bit on the outside. I'll bring one in to show you. Look. So,
that's great, man. Yeah.
That is coffee caramelized.
So the whole reason that the coffee is brown in the first place is through the same reactions that make your toast brown when you put it in the toaster, or the skin of a chicken thigh brown when you brown it. It's the Maillard reaction that's browning those sugars, and it's exact the same thing when you're roasting coffee. So turning those beans from a kind of raw green color to the brownish color that we see in the end lot. It's the heat provoking those sugars to caramelize, and when roasters roast coffee, that's what they're managing anyway. That sugar reaction. Take it too far and you'll get burnt taste. Don't take it far enough and you'll get kind of raw taste, basically.
Okay. Yeah, no, we've been lucky enough to sample a couple of the coffees here, and they've all got very different flavor profiles. So, maybe we've got the Scarlet here, and we got the Little Stones. What makes those ones different in particular? They're different breeds of coffee,
or there's kind of, I suppose the best thing to make it So the best analogy to make here, I suppose all you guys watching at home will be, if you're watching this, you're probably a bit of a foodie, right? You're probably interested in your food and interested in provenance and where things are from, especially if we're talking like the meat you cook on a barbecue. And if I often compare coffee, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, to wine, right? Like wine from France tastes different to wine from Italy. It tastes different to wine from cooler climates like Germany, let's say, or something like that. And exactly the same with coffee. So dependent on where it's grown, the altitude, the temperature, what the soil is made up of, it's going to influence the end flavor of your cup of coffee. For example, if we take one end of the scale and the other end of the scale, I know one of the coffees you guys are using today is from Brazil. And Brazilian coffee is slightly lower. Yep. That the scarlet one?
Yep.
Yeah. So your Brazilian coffee is slightly lower grown than other coffees in the world. And what that's going to give you is going to give you more kind of chocolatey flavors, more kind of more caramelly flavors, slightly more body and texture to it, you know. And especially, you know, when if you enjoy milky coffees, or you enjoy like strong coffees, you know, like hefty, big flavors, then Brazil might be perfect for you. On the other side of things, your Ethiopian coffees, let's say, like West Africa, those coffees are grown very, very high. And what that gives you is more fruitiness in the coffee. It's often much lighter and much more delicate in there. And you use those accordingly, right, with the way you want to brew and what you enjoy. On a sunny day like this, I like brewing like an Ethiopian coffee over ice, because that's refreshing, it's light, it's delicate, it's crisp. I would, you know, if I was doing a jerk chicken, I'd think of you know what I mean? I'd think of if I wanted to add coffee to it, I'd think of a light, fruity coffee that's going to give you those kind of flavors that you're used to with something like a jerk chicken or something like that.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah, so we've got the Delonghi Maestro coffee machine here, and
yeah,
we put the beans in. There's a few adjustments on the machine as well to give you that right blend. Maybe perhaps talk us through some of the adjustments there, because I know we had the training and we seem to get it right. We get it in the optimal zone, and we make a nice coffee with a nice crema. But perhaps tell everybody a little bit how that all works.
Yep.
Could it be better? That's what we're saying.
Yeah, so I think the easiest way of describing this to everyone watching is coffee. To produce good coffee, you need to adjust a few parameters. I know it's really simple. There's 3 parameters. It's how much coffee you use, so how much dry coffee you use, how much wet coffee comes out, so how much you brew essentially, and then the last one is how long it takes to do that. So from when the water hits the coffee and then the coffee is finished, how long does it take to do that? And what limits that is your grind. Yep. So the amount of coffee you use, the amount of brewed coffee that comes out, and then how long that takes. And what the Delonghi La Specialista Maestro can do is adjust all of those 3 things. This kind of machine is something that you can, if you're really interested, it's perfect for you, because you can change all these settings to get the best out of any particular coffee that you're using. If it is a Brazil and you want to bring more chocolatey notes out of it, you can do that by adjusting some things. If it's an Ethiopian and you want it to be lighter, you can do that. So the dial on the left-hand side that you can see on Jack's screen there, yeah, and the kind of the circular dial on the left-hand side that looks like a cockpit dial. The one on the left. So the one on the left on the end is the actual one. So that one you use to adjust the amount of coffee you use. So you can adjust it from 0 to 22, and that's going to adjust the amount of coffee that you can use. You can put into the basket. And the dial on the other side is you can adjust what kind of coffee you're going to make. Now, the La Specialista Maestro comes with some presets, so you can if you has already dialed in and already pre-programmed amounts of espresso to use for, let's say, your flat white or your cappuccino or your latte or your Americano. So you can do that, and it will help you that way. Or it has another function where you can freeball it. You know, you can decide yourself, put some scales underneath, and so that kind of provides a nice bit of variety for everyone who, you know, depending on how deep down that rabbit hole you want to go. And then what you'll see just under the beans, if you just pop that camera to just under where the beans are, yeah, so that's your grind, right? And it goes from fine to coarse. And all that means, fine is smaller pieces of coffee, and coarse will give you bigger pieces of coffee. And all that will happen, all that means is the bigger the coffee, the faster the water will go through, and the smaller the pieces of coffee, the slower the water will go through. And those are the adjustments you're kind of going to make.
Okay, yeah, no, I've been running through, and I think I've got my machine pretty well set up, and it's fascinating that when you put a different coffee in there, that you get the different profile, and you have to tweak it a little bit just to get your coffee right.
Yeah, so because the coffees will have different, without getting too technical, the coffees will have different densities, so they'll have different amounts of moisture in, depending on where they're from, and they will need a slight adjustment because they'll soak up water in a different kind of way, and that will affect how they brew, how quickly or slowly they brew, bringing out good or bad flavors within that.
Nice. Okay. And then
under and over extract, can't you, your coffee when you're brewing it?
Yeah, and essentially all that means is for the guys watching at home, if anyone's, you know, the world of coffee like that can feel a bit, you know, not intimidating, but a bit like niche. All under and over extraction means, hello, look at them. They look well. They look well extracted. Yeah, man.
Oh, sorry, I had to interrupt. It's taken quite a bit to get there.
You've got to eat 2 kilos of wings now.
Yeah. Are you friendly with your neighbours?
Yeah, very friendly. Yes, I'm pretty sure they'll be over fairly soon.
Yeah, good, very good. Yeah. Yeah, so all under extracted and over extracted is over extracted just tends to mean it's taken too long and you've taken too much flavour out of the coffee. And a little tip at home: if you to taste when a coffee's been over extracted, you'll taste bitterness, over bitter, like drying tastes in your mouth. And if it's under extracted, it'll taste harsh, overly acidic, maybe a little bit sour. So under extracted, you want to brew for a little bit longer. Under extracted, brew for longer. Over extracted, brew for less time. And that's a really nice, simple way of looking at it.
Yeah. So with the machine, obviously, we've got, I say, like a number of different settings, and we talked about the grind and, you know, the different beans going in. But so before we did a little pre-meet, didn't we? And I was saying about, can you actually get to a stage where you've got the best out of the coffee and you're not going to get any better out of it?
Yeah. I think the interesting, I suppose the point to that is how there's always a little bit more to get out of it, I would say. So I don't think there's ever a stage where, but I suppose that depends on your personality type, right? A little bit as well. Yeah. So there'll come a point where you've probably got as good as you need for your morning or afternoon coffee or whatever it is, but there's always a little bit more to tweak, always something to change slightly to get a little bit more out of it. But if you're happy with it, then it's a good coffee. I'm very much an anti-coffee snob. I'm not a coffee snob at all. If you like it, and if you've made it, it's bang on, you know.
Brilliant.
So I quite like a double espresso. What's your favourite coffee, mate?
So I tend to brew a lot of filter coffee, actually. Yeah, I tend to brew a lot of filter coffee because I part of my job is to taste coffees from all over the world and to really be able to identify where they're from and the inherent characteristics of that part of the world, and really kind of celebrate that. And sometimes the easiest way of doing that is with a filter coffee, because it's more dilute, it's more open, and sometimes you can taste the intricacies a little bit more in a filter coffee. But it's horses for courses, you know. Like I said before, on a day like this, you know, like a beautiful iced coffee that's really refreshing, like a lovely cold brew, is perfect. You know, on a cold morning, like a double espresso like yourself, with a drop of lovely steamed milk by a barista in a local cafe is just is great. And I think like over the past year, with everything everyone's kind of gone through, hello. Oh. Goodness me, that's good.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Sorry, buddy. I have to get them while they're hot. That's all.
No. Yeah, Elon Musk needs to invent, you know, Tastergram or something.
Where
you could have just been handed it through to me, and I, you know, yeah. That'd be a whole new world.
Do something like that, Hills, and then you take it from your screen.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Yes, I suppose like the answer is like with the favorite coffee is like it's horses for courses. Some days it's one thing, some days it's another thing. There are amazing businesses, amazing roasteries and coffee producers all over the world, and roasteries within the UK producing really amazing things. And people are so passionate, like yourselves, about food and barbecue and meat and things like that. There's really people doing great things, and sometimes just putting your trust in them is the best way to go forward and say, well, I like going to cafes and asking baristas like, what do you like? And what would you recommend today? And generally they'll give you something really good.
So did you have a hand in selecting the coffees for the Delonghi Coffee Lounge?
No, I haven't. I kind of know, I know all the guys roasting that do it. I kind of know of them within the kind of the coffee world that I've operated in the last few years. I'm familiar with some of the coffees that are there. I've seen them in previous years, and that's quite a nice thing. You get to know as you work in coffee. You recognise that producer or that part of Colombia or that part of that part of Brazil. But I've been to most of the places and tasted those guys' coffees previously, and everyone's doing a really good job. It's another thing that people always ask me. They say, who does the best coffee? And I always say, like, the people nearest to you do. You know, like go and support them in every part of the UK now. There's an independent small roaster doing great things, who are really passionate. Some of them are sometimes they're just working out of a small garage with a you know, a 5 to 10 kilo roaster, and they don't roast a lot, but you can guarantee they'll be super passionate and be sourcing fresh great coffee for you to taste. So I would definitely encourage everyone to just, you know, Google local roasters around them, and you'll always find something good.
Nice. Have you got a favourite one around in Stokey, Jack?
You know what, mate? I'm quite partial to what's it called? Where did we go the other day?
Not the old acoustic.
Yeah, Pat's coffee.
On Dalston Lane. I quite like that. Or Acoustic's nice. Hills, have been there a few times, haven't we?
Yeah. I've just seen Backyard saying always chasing that God shot on the chat there. So I'll tell you what the God shot is, shall I? So the God shot is, so for many years I worked as a barista behind a machine in a really busy cafe. And what you're doing when you're doing that is you're trying to get that espresso tasting as bang on as humanly possible. And then when you tweak little things like the grind, like I said, like the amount of coffee you're going to use, like the amount of coffee that comes out. And what the God shot is when you get all of those things right. And that's the best the espresso has ever tasted, and probably will ever taste, actually. And that's what the God shot is. So there you go, Backyard. We are always chasing that God shot.
Like the perfect wave, mate.
That's what I'm is. I get it like dialed into the, you know, so it's on just before the red, and the espresso is amazing. Then I run out of beans and I have to start all over again with what else.
Yeah, man, you can chase it forever. It's great. It's why we're all in the industry. It's you kind of forever wanting that one thing you tasted, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, you want to repeat that. That's why we're all kind of after it.
Nice. So if there are people that are new to coffee, then perhaps that are just familiar with buying from their local cafe, etc., and maybe at home that, I don't know, they have an instant coffee or one of those little gadgets that sit on the stove. What's the sort of recommendation for them to get into a coffee there? Like we gave away one of the nice grinders there today.
I think that's it.
Make a nice coffee, but what is there a step to a good step for people to get?
So I think So the grinder that Jack's shown there, I think that's a great start. If you're at home and you want to improve, if you really like coffee and you want to improve the way you brew at home, I would start with a grinder. Start with a grinder, because grinding fresh is really, really important. Essentially, as soon as the coffee's ground, oxygen is going to get to that coffee, and if you leave it too long after that, it's going to get stale. It's never going to go off or anything like that. Just some of the flavors are going to get a little bit flattened and a little bit dampened. You're not going to have that kind of real juiciness that you want and sweetness that you essentially want from a good coffee. So a grinder is an absolutely perfect place to start. A good grinder and some good water, and that's what you want. So depending on where you are in the country, you will need slightly different filtration methods. Not need, but to get the best out of it. But a basic water filter that you would kind of leave in your fridge would be great, because if you're brewing an espresso, a little factoid is an espresso is around 8 to 10% dissolved coffee, and then 90% of it, the rest of it, is water, right? And if you have a filter coffee, around 1.5 to 2% of that filter coffee is made up of dissolved coffee, and the rest of it is 98% is made up of water. So having nice water that's not too hard, so isn't too full of minerals, and not too soft, so it has enough minerals to extract the flavors, is really, really important. So a kind of basic water filter that you can pick up anywhere will do that job. So good water and fresh grind is an essential. And then if you really want to go for it, something like the La Specialista Maestro is a kind of coffee lover's dream, really.
Oh yeah, I wake up in the morning and get excited about using it. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, the kind of theme of what we've been talking about is what you mentioned when I first joined the conversation, is the rabbit hole. It's you can go down as far as you want, and with a machine like that, the amount of things you can kind of adapt and change to suit your tastes are kind of endless, really.
Someone's flying a plane.
Yeah, there's a little plane going above me. Yeah.
World War II in your garden.
Well,
yeah, there's no banner flying saying Gareth Bale to win.
I'm going to have to drop out, fellas. I've got to get a little bit ready for my coffee for my coffee cocktail with Tyreek at 5. But you guys crack on. I think Jack will be ready a little bit afterwards. But yeah, thanks a lot for the chat, Matt. Awesome to catch up, mate. And yeah, I've just got to go and sort these out, and then yeah. But thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Happy brewing.
So cheers, guys. I'll catch you soon.
There.
I just wanted to ask you about coffee no-nos, basically, because I always struggle with where, because I like you, I'm into coffee not in a massive geeky way, but enough where I want to know the sort of correct way to store sort of ground coffee and things like that, because obviously sometimes you don't always have time to grind it, then make something. So can you pre-grind and store it?
Yeah. So if you're doing that, the tip I'd give you is airtight. So again, it's that oxygen that's gonna make it stale. But if you want to grind it beforehand, I'd keep it in something airtight. If you buy a bag of coffee from your local cafe, very often they'll have the ability to grind it on site. So yes. You can ask it, and you can ask it for a certain grind dependent on how you like to brew it. If it's cafetiere, they'll grind it one way, and if it's espresso, they'll grind it a kind of another way. But yeah, airtight is the only thing you really need to worry about too much. Yeah, I mean, you could freeze it, but
I was going to say, is that a thing? Freezing the beans, is that a thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would only freeze what I was going to use that kind of week, really. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't keep a whole bunch frozen, because you're adding moisture into it as well. You know, like, if you I would take out what you need for the week and let that not be frozen, and like before you freeze it, and then use it once it's kind of dried out. So I wouldn't take out, you know, if you've got a let's say you got a kilo of frozen beans in the fridge, I wouldn't take them out and then use them, because those coffee beans will have a lot of moisture on from the freezer. So I would just take out what you need for that week, and then use that for that week, and then do the same the week after. In that way, you'll get the most benefit out of the freezing process.
Right.
But don't worry too much about it.
So I was doing it with this. I had it set up, and I was getting, you know, near perfect extraction, and I had a kilo of beans, and I thought, oh well, I've read somewhere that you can freeze the beans, so I was freezing them, running out of beans, tipping the beans in, and then grinding them.
You change everything.
When I was trying to make the coffee, it was just redlining and weren't getting any coffee, and I thought, oh, it must be the freezing process. But like, you know, sometimes you read these things, you think, oh, read one thing that says one thing and one that says the opposite, and you think, what's actually right? So
So the freezing process will preserve some of the good flavors in the beans and make them last longer, but it will affect the brewing process. You know what I mean? Right. So I would just say, take out what you need for that week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. Use that non-frozen, and then kind of rotate that, and then your beans will stay fresher and more interesting tasting for longer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there any coffee no-nos?
Ooh, any coffee no-nos? How controversial do you want me to be?
Go for it.
Any coffee no-nos? Massive lattes. No, don't do it.
Yeah.
No. You don't need a latte this big. No. Extra hot. No. But I am letting the kind of slight snob in me come out there. But no. There are genuinely there are no-nos. You like what you like, and you can't. And it's who am I to tell people what they should or shouldn't like? I think the only thing is, like, I kind of don't be. I would always say, don't be put off by. Don't be put off by people who take coffee seriously, and you know what I mean. They're all just passionate people who want to do the best. We've got so that is one. So Backyard have said half regular and half decaf. So I have been behind a machine at a cafe, and the people have asked, can I have half shot decaf, half shot not decaf? Which, we're in a customer service business. Who are we to say no to people? But we definitely do it through gritted teeth. Because one of the things is, right, the most thing is, right, when you work in coffee, so a lot of my work comes also in sourcing coffee, so sourcing different coffees around the world and bringing them in. And a lot of these times, these coffees are produced 2,000 meters above the sea by a smallholder farmer who might own 3 hectares, right? And often the roads are terrible. Getting up to it, and the mere fact that the coffee is in a bag on your shelf in wherever you're living is an absolute miracle. So to kind of, I always feel like it's a shame to add too many different things into that hard work that was done by that producer. But that's because I work quite closely with the producers themselves. So. And they're the ones that grow.
Double shot of vanilla, and shot of vanilla with sprinkles and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, again, who am I to tell people what they should and shouldn't like? But No, don't do it.
So obviously you spent a lot of time as a barista. Did you ever, and be honest now, no one's watching, when someone asked you for a decaf, did you ever fully caffeinate them?
No, I've not done that, but I have done one thing. So what I did do is a lady asked for she ordered a latte, and I shouted when I'd made it. I was like, cappuccino, for whatever her name was. She came up to me and she said I ordered a cappuccino. She ordered a cappuccino. So I just said, oh, I'm really, really sorry. And I literally just kind of turned around and they handed her exactly the same drink. And I was like, there's your cappuccino. And the funny thing about that story is she came back and was like, that is the best cappuccino I've ever had in my whole entire life. You know, and that's kind of what they don't want to tell you. With cafes, don't want to tell you, like the ingredient. It sounds like all the coffees are wildly different, but really the ingredients are the same. It's brewed espresso with some milk on the top and then a varying amount of foam, right? Sometimes a little bit of foam, but essentially the ingredients are the same. So I never quite understand when people say, "Oh, I love lattes, but I hate cappuccinos," because it's the same ingredient.
Yeah, I'm with you. It depends on the moment, doesn't it? So like at the minute, I'm quite big into cold brew because obviously the weather's hot. I still want to have coffee, but I don't particularly want to have boiling hot, double espressos in the morning. So yeah, I love making cold brew, like, let it brew for like 24 hours, pour it, and then treat it like a cordial. But yeah, then sometimes I quite fancy a latte. But just, each to their own. But go to Starbucks and get like a Cheerio, frappuccino with biscuit in it and all that. You're getting away from coffee and getting more into milkshakes and stuff. But,
I suppose it's like, with where you guys treat food, like you want to kind of, like, you care about the provenance of the food, and sometimes the easiest way is if you have let's say you have an amazing bit of steak or something like that, where the farmers worked, tirelessly to produce that amazing cut of meat, and then sometimes the best thing to do with that is just have it simple, and you know what I mean, and have it for what it is, and that's sometimes the case with coffee as well.
Yeah, and sometimes you like a double cheeseburger from McDonald's, and it's greasy.
Exactly.
It just hits the
whatever hits the spot. If you're halfway, I was driving yesterday, and I was on the M40, and what's the only thing you can eat on the M40 is a famous golden arch,
Exactly. Yeah. We won't talk about their coffee. Having done shift work for many years, I've sampled many coffees from many many fast food outlets, and say no more. But let's end then on your top. I mean, I can think of 2 amazing coffees I've had during my lifetime. So tell me about your top 2 or 3 coffees if you can. Then.
Yeah. So one was maybe not the best. So it was a good coffee, it was a solid coffee, but it was on a coffee work trip to Costa Rica, and I was up a mountain in Costa Rica. I had this coffee brewed for me. It wasn't the actual best coffee I've ever had in my life, but the situation really added to how my enjoyment of that coffee. As far as the best single coffee goes, it's really tough. But I think my favorite was there's a variety, a type of coffee called Pacamara, and it's the without going too deep. In the whole world of coffee, there's 2 kind of main species of coffee. You have Arabica and Robusta. And there are lots of different, underneath Arabica, there are lots of different varieties. Again, like wine, lots of different types of, there are lots of different types of grape, lots of different varieties of coffee. And Pacamara is a mix of 2 different varieties to make Pacamara, but they're distinct by they're very big. Their beans are very big. And they're really large, and this particular coffee was Pacamara, and it was naturally processed, and what that means is when the seed, which is the coffee itself that we roast, is removed from the cherry, which is the fruit that it sits in at origin level, you have to process that coffee, and you can do it one of two ways. Number one is washing the coffee, so you remove the seed very quickly and then wash it with water. And then the other way is you let the cherry ferment with the seed surrounding the cherry, and that's called the natural process. And what that gives you really wild, crazy flavors. So real funky flavors, real sometimes tropical fruit notes, sometimes kind of artificial sweety kind of notes to the coffee. And I had one Pacamara that tasted, to me, to my palate, tasted like watermelon, white chocolate, and kind of like a little bit of white grape in there as well. It was so refreshing, vibrant, juicy. It was yes, and that was a Colombian coffee. So Colombian Pacamara was one of the best coffees I've ever had.
Wow. Have you ever tried the coffee that is it the cat that eats it and then poos it out?
Yeah. So without spoiling the party on that one, it's become a bit of an industry there, and sometimes the poor cats are kind of force fed now a little bit, which is so it's like, if anything, I reckon probably back in the day when someone first discovered it, it was quite interesting, but then when something becomes really popular like that, and people see an opportunity to make a load of money, and it's become a bit of like an industry, and people don't really tend to buy it anymore. I have tasted it, and I will say it tastes like a coffee that's comes out of a cat's ass, if I'm honest.
So not 150 quid worth then, no?
No, don't buy it. Don't buy it.
Brilliant. Well, on that note, I think
sorry. Yeah.
Coffee is shit, literally.
Yeah. Don't bother.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on and talking about coffee. I'm sure we could talk for hours and hours, and obviously, whenever you want to come back on, always welcome. And next time you're in London, let us know, and then we can come to the studio audience and enjoy some food.
That's great.
Yeah, big thank you to obviously Delonghi for
thanks guys,
providing us with some amazing coffee machines to get to grips with. And thanks for coming on and telling us all about coffee and a bit about yourself.
Yeah, great. Awesome, thanks, Jack. Enjoy the rest of your day, mate.
And you hope Wales win tonight. Who they playing?
Yeah, they're Denmark. Just started.
Denmark. Right, go on, mate. Then you get away and watch that.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Brilliant. Take care, mate.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All the best.